Okay, just now we turned the mic on, so until then you were only seeing me. Okay, now we are starting the Sloka 34. So what we have done so far is we only reviewed the previous chapter, where we start about the Nirupadika Adhyasa and Sopadika Adhyasa. Now, Jaranya is going to talk more about this Adhyasa in the Sloka 34. And here it says, Idam amsascha satyatvam suktigam rupya ichyate. So there are two things when we say shall. What is a shall? Shall has, this is a shall. So when we say this is a shall, there are two parts. Idam amshaha satyatvam. In that this is a shall, this is part, that idam part, this is satyatvam, is the real part. Suktigam. So in that belongs to the shell. So this idam part, this is shell, and this is part comes from the shell part, which is what is there really. And this is silver. So when we say this is silver, this is part is coming from this shell, and silver part is coming from the projection. So whenever I see that, when I say this is a silver, when there is no really silver but it's only shell, this is what means I am able to see an object as this is without knowing what it is. So I have Vastu Jnanam, and Vastu Jnanam is that which is really there, because there is a shell. So there is part is real, and that is the Satyatvam, because that is the real part, because there is part is common for every object. So there is a shell, there is a water, there is a chair, there is. So when we start with there is, we are keeping that as a samanyam, that means common factor, and the things that are changing is the only changing factor is shell, chair, table, everything else that we add. So there are two parts in every knowledge, in every objective knowledge. One is the satyam part, and other is a superimposed part, which is called mithya part or asat part. So this is called Satyanaruta Mithuni Karanam. This is called Adhyasa. So in this Adhyasa, there are two mixing of two things. One is the real part, Satyatvam. Another is Asatyatvam, which is that is not really there, but appears to be there. And that is, in this case, Suktigam or Rupyam. Suktigam is that which belongs to this the shell, or it is the silver. And each day. So when I am seeing that, when I say this is silver, what I am doing is I am mixing two things. One is the real part and the unreal part. The real part is this is the real part. Unreal part is silver part. And when I discovered that it's not really silver and discovered that it is a shell, then I say this is shell. So I replace the silver part by a shell part. So this is part is remaining same in both. This is shell and this is silver. So this is, where is it coming from? It is coming as though from the vastu, from the object, that is the sukti. It belongs to sukti. But actually it doesn't belong to Sukti, it belongs to the absolute existence itself, because there is always, this is for every object in the universe. So that Samanya is always there, only the Viseshana or Visishta is changing in all objective, which is name and a form. So name and form belongs to the Jagat. That means that which keeps changing depending upon the form I give a name. Form includes Rupa, Rasa, all the 5 attributes of the object. And what is Samanyam? This is the easiness part of it is the Samanyam. And easiness is not existence part of it, and that's why scripture says existence alone was there before creation, and that existence itself became many. So here he is defining that adhyasa, and it says idam amsascha satyatvam suktigam rupya ichyate. So in that rupya, in the silver, there is, this is silver, and this is part is coming from shell, because that is what really is. Ichyate. So that's what one sees. And now he extends that to Swayam tvam vastuta chaiva vikshepi vichyate nyagam. And here it says this Swayam tvam, in the essential of oneself. Swayam tvam means in the say I am, the self that I am. So the self part, which is called essentially, he calls it as Swayam. So he is using now terminologies from now on. Says Swayam Swatvam, that is the self part, which is essentially the real part, and Aham, Tvam, and all those Visheshanas that you add, that is, will be the changing part. So Aham here implies I am so and so, that is what Aham, Ahankara. So Ahankara is what symbolism of the changing things, because each one has their own ahankara. Each one say I am so and so. So therefore that part of it is what is called aham, and that is the changing part, and the changeless part is the self. So self is there, and these two together are mixing in every knowledge of in transactions. So swayam tvam vastuta chaiva vikshepi vichyate anyagam. So anyagam here is not describing in the other means the one Chidabhasa. So starting from the two bodies and the Chidabhasa, all are changing things. What is changeless is only Kutastha Chaitanyam. So you have pure Kutastha Chaitanya, means that changeless, all-pervading consciousness, existence consciousness, and that is the self, Swayam Tvam, that which is essentially the self, and everything else is the projection, Vikshepa, and that is the Anyagam, that means Chidabhasa, and which involves reflection, and including the reflecting medium, that is the body, the mind, the subtle body, and the gross body, all come under Anyagam. That means all other things, and that is Vikshepe, that is by the projection, Vichyate, it is recognized. So what is happening here? When I say this is a shell, or this is a silver, we are covering the nature of the Visheshanas of one and putting something else there. So we are covering because of I do not know that it is really a shell, since of the avidya of the shell, I am projecting the silver. Why am I projecting? Because of the shining part of the shell and the shining part of the silver are common factors. But there are other factors of the shell I am not seeing, non-shining parts I am not seeing, and I am only projecting based on the predominant attribute of this shell that I am seeing it. And that becomes the cause for only taking that part of the truth and mixing something else, because I have no complete knowledge of it. So I am putting something else together. So it is always chow-chow. That is the real part and unreal part in all adhyasa. And the interesting thing is that if it is the real part alone is there, I cannot see. If the unreal part alone is there, I cannot also see. It's always the combination is a problem. Why? The combination is the one that because of which it exists. If there is no real part of it, means it doesn't even exist. Therefore, I cannot see. And if there is no name and a form for me to see, then I cannot see pure existence if it is pure existence alone. So the problem become difficult. So whatever I see involves this always a mixture. And therefore, Either it is a Chetanam or a Chetanam, or conscious entities or unconscious entities. I am only seeing only this combination of adhyasa. And therefore Vedanta takes this, recognizes this problem, and therefore teaches what is called adhyaropa apavada. Taking what is adhyasa and doing with that, and slowly lift your mind to drop the unreal part and see the real part. So I had to separate these two parts which are mixed together. One is the Samanya and the Visheshana. Unfortunately, they are not of the same type in the sense ontologically, from the point of ontology, they are not of the same type for me to separate it. It's not like a mixture of our chocho mixture where I can separate the karam pusa or this pusa or that pusa, because they are of the same order of reality. But here is one is subtler and another is grosser. So therefore it's difficult for me to separate, because this is part comes from the existence, and existence I cannot see, and the other part that I can see is not the real part. Unreal part is getting mixed up, and I can see that part, but it cannot exist by itself because existence has to support it. Therefore these two are always together. So only I can separate it cognitively. That means only by using the mind, using the intellect. Intellectually I had to separate, because physically I cannot separate it. So I want to see the Lord, sit there. You cannot see the Lord. If you see the Lord, then it again a form, and that's not the Lord, because again you are mixing two things again. So anything you quantify, qualify, want to do this, you cannot do it. Oh, it's beyond the mind. If it's beyond the mind, you go to sleep. What is beyond the mind? It is beyond the mental notions of what you think you are. That's all beyond the mind means. And it's not with the mind, you have to go beyond the mind. All these words are used in the Adhyatmika Vidya, and in meditation you have to sit down and inquire, who am I? And the manasantu kim margane krute naiva manasam marga arjava. Says naiva manasam. This is from the Upadesasara. They said there won't be any mind. So if there is no mind, what happens? You go to sleep only. So what he implies is, if there is no mind, means there is no notional mind. What mind is required is the discriminative mind is required. That mind which separates these two, the Samanya and Vishesha. And that mind is required, and that requires by vichara only, by inquiry only. So inquiring what is right and what is wrong, what is real and what is not real. And how to inquire? For that only the Shastra Pramana is required. By using a Shastra as a means of knowledge, I had to inquire what is real part and what is unreal part. So idamamsascha satyatvam suktigam rupya ichyate swayam tvam vastuta chaiva. So swayam tvam, that self that is vastuta, is the real part, and vikshepi vichyate anyagam. Anyagam, all chidabhasa and the subtle body and the gross body, all are projections on top of this, the self that is. So that is the mixture, just as this is part and the shell part, the shell or the silver part are mixed together. If you understand the adhyasa, then the whole Vedanta is clear. You understand means you apply it. Okay, let's do Sloka 35. So it's going to give more details of how these things are mixed together and how one should separate. So the next few slokas talks about adhyasa bhashya only. Nila pushtatrikonatvam yadha sukte tirohitam. Yes, yadha suktau tirohitam suktau tirohitam asanganandata jeyam kutaste pitirohitam. So here, what are the things that are superimposed and what are the things that are covered is being instated here. Nila Prushta Trikonatvam Yatha Suktau Tirohitam. In the Suktau, in the Sukti, in the shell, there are three things that he is telling that are being covered, that means you don't see. So when I see it as silver, I get carried away with the shining part of it, and I'm not paying attention, mental attention to the other details, even if I see it, because I have value for the silver. That makes me blind for other things also. So whenever I have a value for particular things, I ignore other factors. This is also due to adhyasa. That's what happens when we look at our children, our this, our that, this is mine, that is mine. I am ignoring all other things, only paying attention because other things are being covered with my attachments. That's what the Gita Upadesa starts, because he is covering, he says, they are my people. How can I face? There is Swajanam Krishna, right? So they are my people. If other people would have fought, there is no problem. But it is my people is the one that made the problem. So this I-ness and minus is coming. And how this adhyasa is here, is giving an example of this, the suktau, the shell, because the shell and has been extensively discussed in the Vedanta, and also in the Tarka Shastra also. So, Nila, Prushta, Trikonatvam. There are three things here he is mentioning. Nila, the blueness. Prushta, the blackness. I don't know, there is a black and blue also. Trikonatvam, the triangular part of that. Or Yatha Suktau Tirohitam. Tirohitam means it's being covered in the Suktau. In the shell, all these factors have been covered. And what I am saying is only Rupyam, only silver part. And there is no silver there. What is there is only the shining part, the attribute of the silver. And that's where the problem. So here one has to be careful here. And this is a Adhyasa Bhashya. There is a lot of extensive discussions, Purvapakshas and all that. I don't want to go into too many details. But when I am seeing the silver, why am I seeing the silver? Right? So that means silver I must have seen before somewhere. Because otherwise I won't see. If I don't know what is silver, then I won't say that is a silver. So that means I should have the knowledge of silver beforehand. So if you apply this to the world, then I have a problem. That means there is a real silver somewhere which I saw, and I am able to project it, a false silver here, because there was a real silver somewhere else, which I have experienced in the past. So if I am saying projecting the whole universe here, which is not real, how can I project the false world unless there is a real world that I have seen before? Isn't it? I don't know if you understand. If there is a real world, then we have a real problem. So, Purvapakshi. So you have to understand what is Purvapakshi is an objector. It's not a Pakshi. Purvapakshi is called an objector. Objects is you are using this adhyasa and you are projecting, you say you are projecting something other than something else. So tatasmin tad buddhihi. That's what is the definition of adhyasa. You are projecting on this something other than this. So what are you projecting? Something that you are familiar. You don't project something not familiar, because then you have no knowledge. You are projecting something you know. And here you know the silver, therefore you know that there is a real silver you must have seen. That's why you are able to project that silver here. You think that's why you have value for it. But now, if you apply this is okay for silver shell, but when you apply to this, to the world and say the whole world is nothing but superimposed Vikshepa on the Lord, on the Satyam, then we have a problem, because there must have been real world that you have experienced before, and therefore that's what you are projecting now. So this is a Purvapakshi. Without going into too detail, he says, I have seen it before world. Shankara says, yes, you have seen the world before. That was in the previous life. You have seen that previous life. But previous life also you saw only false one. So where did I see? Previous to previous one. Sir, at least the first one should be real. The first one for me to project it. Says there is no first one. Because avidya is anadi. That's one explanation. So that way there is no It's a beginningless avidya. Projection is occurring from the beginning. The second aspect of it is also is that the whatever you are projecting itself is not real, but I can project the false on a false again. For example, I might not have seen real snake before, but I might have seen a false snake. And taking example, for example, a ghost seen on the post. So when I'm seeing a post, I say, hey, that's a ghost, because I'm afraid of ghosts. Because it is standing there and in the middle of this one, and I'm afraid, and I'm, children get projected all the ghosts. Doesn't mean that there was a real ghost that I saw before for me to project. I saw false ghost in some movies or on this, and I am projecting here. So I can project the false knowledge of something again on something else also. So that's how the explanations are. The fact of the matter is we are projecting something, and that's what is important here. So Neela Prushtas Trikonatvam Yatha Suptau Tirohitam. So just as the Neelam Prushtatvam and Konatvam, the blueness and the blackness and the triangularness of the shell is covered, and what is only not covered is the shining part like a silver, and that's what I am seeing, and the shining part I am projecting something else. So here also one more aspect of it is, I don't really see an object as an object. What I see is only attributes of the object, and assume that there is an object with the locus of those attributes. So when I see even in a real silver also, I don't see real silver object. Thank God, because the object is right there. What I see is only a projection of the image, and of which the dominant factor comes into picture. Everything else is coming secondary. And therefore, only it's an attributive knowledge. So all knowledge is attributive knowledge. And only the substantive knowledge I will never have it, because substantive is nothing but Brahman, which is all pervading, so I cannot perceive that. So it's always attributive knowledge, but attributes belong to an object is only at the transactional level, and at the transactional level assume that the object is real, at least transactionally real. Only when I am awakened to higher state, I see the unreality of that object. Just as in the dream state, during transactions I see the world is real, the dream world is real, but only when I am awakened, all the world is recognized as was not unreal. So this is with respect to the shell. Now here, with respect to the consciousness, he is telling asanga anandata adhyayam kutastopi tirohitam. So in the kutastha chaitanya, what is covered? In the shell we know what is covered. One is neelam, prushtatvam and konatvam. That means the neelatvam, the blueness and the blackness and the triangularness are covered. Whereas in the case of how do you apply this to the Kutastha Chaitanyam? Kutastha Chaitanyam means pure consciousness. He says there are two. Asangam. Asangam means unattachment. And anandam. Anandam means the pure happiness or adhyam. They are covered. Kutastha tirohitaham. They are covered in the Kutastha. So what is covered? Only the part, Ananda part and the Asanga part are covered. The rest is not covered. What is the rest? Sat, Chit, Ananda. So there only Ananda part is covered. What's not covered? Sat part is not covered and Chit part is not covered. Therefore I say I am Jivaha. So I am is partial knowledge of I am is there. So I am is pure existent consciousness that I am. So I know I am existent, and I know I am conscious entity, and these are not covered because I know I am existent. No one say I am not existing, and no one say I am not conscious entity. If he is saying, that means he is conscious entity. So therefore, those things are not covered. So I am already solved two-thirds of the problem. Because I already know that I am existent and I am conscious. So what's the problem? Is the asangatvam and anandatvam. And anandatvam means I do not know that I am happy. And that's the problem. So I am is Jivaha, means sufferer, or the one who is Ananda Swarupam. I am only a local guy, finite guy. Ananda means Anantatvam is Anandam. Therefore, finiteness is Anandam, or not having the happiness. So Anandatvam is recognition that I am infinite. So aham jivosmi means I am finiteosmi. That means I am a limited guy. And I don't like it because I am not really limited. And therefore this conclusion is not really valid for myself also. So I want to become unlimited by gathering this. So all the rat race starts by I want this, I want this. Why? I want to become complete because that's my nature. So here is a problem where I cannot but strive to get some more for me to become infinite. And I can never become infinite by adding anything. So this is a struggle. The whole life is not only one life, but lives and all that. Why? Because I am trying to reach my true nature, which is Anandatvam or Anantatvam. And I'm trying to reach the solving a problem by going a wrong way, by adding a finite things to myself, and I want to become infinite in the process. So mathematically also it's impossible. Finite plus finite is only finite, and it will never become infinite. So I can never solve this problem by the way I am doing it. Unfortunately, my problem is I am can only do this. So I cannot solve the problem. At the same time, I cannot keep quiet also. So this double problem is there, and whole life I am going to spend this and this continuously trying to solve a problem where there is no really problem, because I want to be infinite, I want to be Ananda, and I cannot get Ananda that I want by gaining anything at all. So these two are covered by this avidya. What are the two? Asangatvam and Anandatvam. Asangatvam means the detachment. That means I am not really attached. So whenever I am attached something, that means that is I am covered by this avidya. So whenever all attachments are due to avidya, that's what he is saying. I am not saying that, that's what he is saying. So this, whenever I say I attach, means attached to what? Attached to my own, starting from my own body, mind and intellect, and then this. So I am attached to something other than myself. I cannot attach to myself, you cannot call it. I am attached to something other than myself. So what is other than myself? Did you get initially we didn't have turn it on. I don't know if you saw that. No, it's okay. You know, initially we didn't, you didn't try it, okay. Anyway, we turn now the mic on. So I don't know this. So attachment comes only with something other than myself. So when I say I am, itself is not attached, but I am, this is a problem. So whenever I add this to I am, then I get attached to this. So what is this? So I am, all my ego is only I am, this only. I don't say I am, period. Introduce yourself, I am, this only you add in terms of either starting from your body or your mind or intellectual or emotional relationships or physical relationship or what you possess. So the more I have, the more I am also, right? Because I have millions of dollars, therefore I am also great. I have a big mansion. That is what I have is what I have. But what I have become what I am, because since I have that, so I am also big. Remember in India we introduced, my brother-in-law's brother-in-law is a minister somewhere. Why? Therefore I am also great. Because all these relationships and everything is because of Sangam. So what is Asangam? Asangoham, punah. Sasidananda rupoham, ahameva hamavyeha. I am unattached. Aham Anandaha. I am Brahmasmi also. Therefore, these are the two that are covered by ignorance. And that's what Vidyaranya is emphasizing. So in the analysis of the shell, the Nilatvam, Prushtatvam and Trikonatvam are covered, and what's not covered is only the silveriness, and therefore I see that silveriness and say that it is a silver, not seeing the other aspects of it. In the same way, from the Jiva point, I say I am plus add something else other than I am, because I do not know my true nature. I do not know my Anantatvam, which is same as Anandatvam. Therefore, I say I am existent, I am conscious entity, but I am only limited entity. So that is the Adhyasa. So that's what he is illustrating now, the Adhyasa aspect. So he's going to give more analysis of what Adhyasa is. Aropitasya drishtante, aropitasya drishtante, rupyam nama yatha tatha, rupyam nama yatha tatha, kutasthadyasta vikshepa, kutasthadyasta vikshepa, namahamiti nischayaha, Mahamiti nischaya. So drishtante, in the drishtantam, that means in this example that we are doing. What is the example? The shell silver. So the silver that I am seeing in the shell, aropitasya, the aropana means superimposition of the silver, yatha rupyam as silver, nama is the name. So what I am superimposing, I am superimposing a name for the form. So form and the name. Form is what? Form is attributive content. Form is one of the attributes. So here the attribution is the shining part. So when I say shining, it is shining silver. So I am seeing the shiningness, and I am giving the attribute, and attribute is forming in my mind as though image, and from that attribute I am projecting from my memory a silver is coming in. So that's how the cognition is. Cognition is when I see an object, I see attributes of the object and forms an image, form, colors, all the attributes. Sabda, Sparsa, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. All the five senses are bringing information about the object, and that forms a thought in my mind, and the thought is existence of the object is the existence of the thought in my mind. Right? And that thought, contents of the thought is attributes of the object out there. So whatever the attributes that I am seeing, I am only seeing partial attributes. I am not seeing the Nilatvam, the blueness, and the blackness, and the triangularness of the shell. What I am seeing only the silveriness, and silveriness is projected on the thought. That's only attribute or predominant attribute that is coming. So I have a thought of this is part. Remember, this is part is real. So this is shell. So this is part is coming. Shell part not completely coming. So this is part means Vastu Jnanam. There is an object that I am seeing, but that object has attributes of silveriness. So now what is that object with the silveriness objects? So up to this is cognition. And recognition comes from the memory. It says, is there an object that has the similar attributes? And from the memory, therefore, I have seen real silver somewhere. So that silver also has the same attributes based on the shapes may be different, because I have seen silver in different shapes also. So shape is not important, not the characteristic of the silver. So intrinsic characteristic of silver is silveriness, and that I am seeing here. Therefore, I am projecting that this is silver. So this is part is the true part, because this is still remains, because this is a shell. This is a shell part, is the real part is coming as this part. This is, that means existence of an object is coming from the shell. Only the other part, so samanyam is this is samanyam for everything. The viseshana part is only the name and a form. This is part doesn't have a name and a form. Name and a form, anything is this is only. This is a table, this is a chair, this is an object, this, so everything is called this is, including this is space. So this doesn't have any attributes. And any attributes is only contains to the name and a form. So therefore, all the world, everything in the world that I see contains this is plus and a name and a form. And the name and the form is coming from attributes, right? Rupam. And the name comes from what? Nama, Rupa. Name comes from knowing. Naming involves knowing. I cannot name something unless I know. That means consciousness that I am coming in for me to be conscious of the object that I am seeing, and therefore I say this is, in fact that means knowledge of I am conscious of an object, this is, plus I am conscious of the attributes of the object, the silveriness, and from memory I am bringing in back and say this is silver, right? All that is involved in this. When I say this is silver, all this background information is going on. Suppose I see an object and I don't know what it is from my memory. First time I am seeing. I may use upamana. Upamana means, hey, this looks like a cow, or this looks like something that I know, but it's not that, but it's looking like that, right? That's called upamana, is also one of the means of knowledge also. So, say her face is like a moon, and so you say not that her face is exactly, but dominant factor of that is I am seeing. That's how all the alankaras are coming from the upamana and all that, similes. So I use that as a knowledge to indicate what that is also. But if I don't know what it is and I see some strange attributes of that, I record it and ask, what is this? Oh, this is what Gaga Boo is. You know, we can give some name for it, and this now I know what is a name for a form. That's what all the world is nothing but Nama Rupatmakam Jagat. The whole world is nothing but Nama means naming, for Rupa means attributive contents that I perceive. Not even real attributes, you should know that it's only reflected attributes of the object only. If I am color blind, it may have different colors, but what I am seeing will only depending upon my sense input, whatever the colors the senses bring in, and that's what I am projecting on the object. So here, Aropitasya drishtante, in the drishtanta, aropitam, what I am superimposing is rupyam. Rupyam is silver is projected as nama, as the name, because there is no substantive silver there. Yatha tata, in the same way, kutastha jasta vikshepa, nama ahamiti nischaya. In the same way, now you have to apply this, and the pure consciousness that is there, I am superimposing on that. What is that? Adhyasa is aham, I am. Aham means ahankara is being superimposed on the pure consciousness. Okay, this is clear, should be clear. From the pure consciousness point, it has nothing to do with it. We should have pure consciousness. If you ask, when did you become this world? It says, I have not become anything. I am pure consciousness, all pervading, without sajati, vijati, swagata veda, no difference of any kind in me. Then what I may say, you are saying, therefore we are giving you a theory for you to explain it until you understand it. Now, as long as I am in this world, I have problem here is, I only can see this problem, where these two always are together. What? The real part and the unreal part. This is shalva, this is shell. This is part is always there, and on top of it I am projecting a shell or silver. If I have the real knowledge, I say this is shell. If I don't have real knowledge, I say this is silver. So I am projecting this part only, this Visishta part, and Visishta part has a Nama Rupa, names and forms. This is part is always this is only. That means existent part remains as existent as this is chair, this is this. So every time I see the world, I have these two all the time. So how should I see Brahman? You cannot see Brahman directly. And if there is no Nama Rupa, I cannot also see, because I only can see only this. So I have whatever I see, they're always coming together, so I have to use the discriminative intellect to separate intellectually, because physically I cannot separate, they are not of the same order of reality. And therefore intellectually viveka I had to use whenever I see the world to see Brahman there. Follow now? I cannot see Brahman otherwise. I had to see in and through what I see the Brahman there, because Brahman is everywhere. Brahman is the very substantive of the whole. So that is here from the point of Kutastha. So now Kutastha, let's look at Chaitanya. Whenever I see any human being, these are two things are there. One is a consciousness existent, that is Samanya part. Samanya means common factor. So everyone who says he is existent and conscious entity, right? And on top of it, Visishta, the superimposed name and form are superimposed. What is Visishta? When he says I am, he will ask you introduce this. All are this is Visishta. Right? So that is not the real part. What is real part is Brahman part is only I am part, which is the self. That is the Kutastha part. So now, whenever I transact with the world, I have to recognize this factor. What is the factor? There are always two things. One is the Samanya part and the Visishta part. And when I am transacting in the world, I should apply this Viveka as I am transacting in the world. What should I apply? That there is a Brahman part and there is a Brahman part, which is false part. A false part is needed for transactions. Without that, a chair is different from a table. Even though they are false, I need to sit a chair and I need to use a table and all that. So transactionally, I can only deal with Nama Rupa only. While transacting with the Nama Rupa means names and forms, I should also have all the time a realization or recognition. Recognition means seeing again correctly of the Brahman part, the Chaitanya part or the Samanya part, which I really don't see, but it is there all the time. So that's why we need to have a Viveka. Viveka is, so I had to apply this knowledge. So how do I apply? Whenever I see, I had to discriminate the real part and the unreal part. And when I am deeply involved in the transaction, it's difficult. Because I'm so much involved in the Vyavahara, so it's difficult for me to separate, hey, this person may be a rotten guy, but he's Brahman only. So rotten part is to be dealt in the rottenness in the Vyavahara part. But at the same time, I had to know that this is Brahman also. So I deal with what needs to be done, not that what I want it to be done, or whatever the circumstances required to solve a problem has to solve the problem. That's why Krishna never spared anybody, right, for the adharma. So that has, but at the same time, it's all him only. So transactionally, we don't get confused. Just as I understand everything is electron, protons, neutrons, but at the same time, food is food and garbage is garbage. I have no confusion between the two. Just because I am a scientist, I don't get eating garbage because they are electron, protons, neutrons. So having the knowledge of oneness that pervades everything does not deprive me to act properly in the transactional world. At the same time, the knowledge will help me not to get carried away with the problems that are associated with the projections. That's what he is going to see, because remember, asangam and sangam becomes, sangam means attachments become a problem. So in the same way, kutastha, adhyastha, vikshepa, so nama ahamiti. What is the name that is projecting? Aham. Aham means ahankara, ego. So what is involved ego? Ego involves two things all the time. I am plus this. That's ego. So definition of ego is I am this. This keeps changing only, right? I am part is the same. So everybody will start this I am only this. So there is a Samanya part, Visishta part. Visishta part is changing. Samanya means changeless entity. So changeless entity in all the changing things, whatever changeless is real. Whatever changing is the one that is Mrutu, that which keeps dying, means keep changing. So in all the changeless things, there's always two things together, and unfortunately I cannot see, because the seeing involves a perception. Perception can only see forms and attributes only, and that which is attributeless cannot be seen by senses. Right? And what is attributeless? Which is Samanya part. So all that is involved in the analysis of Vedanta. Even though Vedanta's understanding is required, but use the discriminative intellect when I am transacting in the world, that I have to learn. How do I learn? By constantly listening and applying. So, abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha krishnate. Vairagya is giving up my attachments to Nama Rupa and practicing that in and through Nama Rupa. There are two things. One is the consciousness for the entities and the existence for inert entities. All that has to be practiced. So, aham iti, so he is talking about the conscious entities. I am, aham iti, is nischayaha, that is vikshepa part. So, in the Kutastha, he is calling swa means self, and the other part, whatever you add to it, is the adhyasa part, which is the error. So, he is going into the analysis of this. Idam amsham swatah pasyan, idam amsham swatah pasyan, rupyamitya bhimanyate, rupyamitya bhimanyate, tatha swam cha swatah pasyan, tatha swam cha pasyan, ahamitya bhimanyate, ahamitya bhimanyate. So what I have discussed here is being explained here. So, idam amsham swataha pasyan. So, idam amsham is thisness. So, this part of this is. So, every object you communicate as this is object, right? This is silver, this is chair, this is table, this is tumbler, this is garbage, this is food. All this is common for everything, samanya part. So, that is called idam amsham. And swataha is the self that in the conscious entity that I am using the swataha also, existence aspect. Rupyam iti manyate. So this idam rupyam, this is silver. So when you say this is silver is current my knowledge. So when I learn what is really, it's not really silver but a shell. So I keep that this is still common and now replace the silver part with the shell part. So this is silver is being replaced by this is shell once I gain the knowledge. So this I am a jiva, that is due to ignorance, and jiva, but I am still remain. Jiva part is removed, and what I put? I am Brahman, because that's the only part that is covered. The existing part and the conscious part is not covered. Only the Ananda part is covered. That's why I am looking for Ananda. Ananda part is Anantatvam. Only limitless is pure Ananda, and limitless is Brahman. So that part is Ananda part is Brahman. So the knowledge will be Aham Brahmasmi. That becomes a knowledge, and that in the case of silver, I know when I picked it up, it is a shell. So I need a proper means of knowledge for me to know that it is not a silver but it is a shell. What is now proper knowledge? I need to pick up and look at other attributes of the object for me to know it's not really silver. It may look like a silver, but it's not really silver, and it is a shell. Once I sell, I throw it, right? I pick up things and I say, hey, it's a silver, and then I pick it up. So this is our common experience, because we have no value for the shell, but we have value for the silver. We don't throw it silver, but we throw a shell. So once I know it is only a shell, nama rupatpakam, which is useless, I throw it. If shell is required for use, I use it for proper use. If shells are required and my daughter or granddaughter are collecting some shells, so I keep it as a shell, not for silver, but as a shell I collect it for some purpose. So I use it where it is required for its utility only. So every object has some utility. So in the same way, aham jiva, I am jiva. I am jiva, therefore I have, because it's covered, I don't realize that I am a kutastha chaitanyam, that which is changeless consciousness, which is all pervading. And this adhyasa is already, he's discussed about it, starts from the reflected consciousness, the chidabhasa, and that is reflected in the subtle body and the gross body. All that is part of this adhyasa, superimposition on top of the kutastha. And that is essentially tata swamcha swatah pasyan. So in that same way, swamcha swataha, so what in that swa he is calling the self, on top of the self I am superimposing this ahankara part. So aham iti abhimanyate. So it covers is the chidabhasa is also included in the part of it as a part of the adhyasa. So adhyasa is superimposition on something other than what it is. So there are two definitions of adhyasa that Shankara gives in the Brahma Sutra. One is the satya anuta mithuni karanam adhyasam. So satya anuta mithuni karanam, which means mixing up of satya, the true part, and anutam, the wrong part or the false part, and mixing together as though it is one. Mixing are not two, but inseparably as one. Because they are ontologically, there are two different degrees of order. So I am mixing the real part and unreal part, and this is called adhyasa. In the case of silver, this is part is the real part, and the silver part is unreal. I am mixing it into not two things there. There is only one. This is silver. Silver is only one object. So there is only perception of only one object. Although there are two entities, and one is the higher order of reality, another, just as I am mixing gold and a ring. There are no two things as a gold and a ring, but when I say ring, it is gold only, but one is the nama rupa, another is the substantive, whatever that supports it. So in the same way, tatha swam means the self, that is what is kutastha, cha swatah pasyan, aham iti abhimanyate, I am and you are, he, she is, all those visishta chaitanyam is being superimposed. So he's giving exhaustive analysis of this adhyasa. Oh, 10:30. I'll give you one more. Shall we stop here and then come back, or 5 more minutes?
Continue for one more.
Okay, let's do V38. Idam tvarupyate bhinne, idam tvarupyate bhinne, satvahante tatheshyatam, satvahante tatheshyatam, samanyascha visheshascha, samanyascha visheshascha, yubhayatrapi gamyate, bhayatrapi gamyate. So idam tvam rupyate is rupyata. So this idam tvam means thisness from pratyayam. So idam from pratyayam, that means thisness of the rupyata in the silver. When I say this is silver, and bhinne are separate from each other. So in says this is silver, there are two things that are really separate. One is this is part and silver part. That's what he's saying, bhinne. So although they are two separate entities, I am seeing as unitary experience of this is silver as one entity. So other one is imperceptible and other is perceptible. In the two parts, this is silver, part is imperceptible because this is coming from the existence part. Isness is coming from the existence part, not this part. Isness part is coming from existence part, and the other part is that which I cannot perceive because existence is infinite. So I can say this is the watch. This means the existence part is there. Without the existence, the object cannot exist. But existence is where? It's not a quality of the object. It's not an attribute of the object. It's not a part of the object. It is completely of the object because a completely object exists. At the same time, I cannot separate existence and then have a watch. Because if I separate, then a watch will not exist. So any object that exists has the existence. So existence lends existence to every object. And existence itself is imperceptible. So I had to see that existence in and through every object, which is not perceptible. So I had to use cognition to know that from every object I had to recognize what it is. So idam tam rupyate, even though bhinni, it is inseparable, I mean it's separate from the rupyate, from the silveriness, that idam tam, this is silver. In the same way, it's swatva hante tatheshyatam. So in the same way, tatha, so swatvam and ahanta, there are two aspects. Swatvam is the self part, ahanta is the I am part, I am is ahankara part here, is mixing together. There are two parts in that, and that I had to separate by cognitively or intellectually I had to separate. And here it says samanyascha viseshascha hi ubhayatrapi gamyate. So here there are two samanya and visesha. So samanya means common part and the visesha part, and there are two. So essentially what implication we say is the whole Vedanta is packed here. It says pure consciousness is all pervading. From the pure consciousness there is no other thing other than pure consciousness. So pure consciousness doesn't have to realize also. It doesn't have jnanam, no jnanam, nothing. It's pure existent consciousness. But whenever there is a subtle body, which is mind and intellect, that subtle body has the capacity to reflect that consciousness, and that's called Chidabhasa. So there has to be subtle body to reflect it. Just like there has to mirror is there, mirror can reflect the light. Maybe other black, but this kind of black body may not be able to reflect. So the reflective capacity of the subtle body is the nature of the subtle body, and the reflective capacity depends upon how pure the mirror is, how pure the mind is. So the purer the mind, greater the reflection of the consciousness. So what we have to do is polish the mind, brainwashing. So we'll talk about brainwashing in the Atharva in the Sunday tomorrow class, because Aham Brahmasmi is also kind of brainwashing. But brainwashing of the reality, not about the false. Falseness becomes a brainwashing, whereas the reality, I am a man, it's not a brainwashing. It is, unless I think I am a rat, then I need a brainwashing. I am a man has to be meditated upon, because that is a fact. So factual superimposition is not called brainwashing. So here same way, the mind has to be purified, because mind is extroverted and running all over. It has to be purified to reflect. Extrovert means rajas. The mind is agitated all the time, so it has to be calm and quiet so that the reflection is beautifully done. So that's what is the Shanta Swarupam is. The calm mind, unagitated mind is the mind that is ready to learn. Agitated mind cannot learn. So that is what is the nature of the reflecting medium, depends on the reflection of medium, but nothing to do with the Kotastha Chaitanya. So Chidabhasa, the reflection, depends on the medium. In the process of reflection, it makes the mind active as though it is a living entity, because this is a consciousness that is getting reflected, and that gets reflection passed on to the body also. So the body becomes also a conscious entity. So when I touch it, I can feel the consciousness as though acting. So all that is there in that. So this is a part of Samanya and Visishta. So in every conscious being, in every living being, this is what this is. There is a Samanya Chaitanya, Visishta Chaitanya. This is an ant, there is a Samanya Chaitanya plus attributes of the ant at the physical level and all that. And ant has its own mind maybe, and it wants to look for some food wherever the sweet is. So it has its own the life struggles, and all that is part of the Visishta Chaitanya only. But when I look at the world with this knowledge and I see Samanya part everywhere, then I am conscious of all-pervading Brahman, and that Brahman is I am. That should be understood. So Ubhayatra api gamyate. So in both examples as well as in the consciousness that he is seeing, both are together. So this is a lot more, discuss some more. So we'll come back after around 11 o'clock, 20 minutes. So take a break and come. We'll do Purnamada now. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Looks like a lot of people already realized it. People said they are not coming this week. But actually, if no one comes, I can give talks at my home.
No. They will come.
No, I have no problem.